this to just kind of, oh, thanks for starting the recording. Go ahead and have everyone introduce themselves and talk about when they were here, when they graduated from Point Park, and then talk about your career, what's happened so far since graduation, and then we've got a series of questions for everyone. So I guess, Haley, do you want to start us off?
I can do that. So I'm Olah. I was graduated from Point Park in 2017. I was really focused in the music area when I was at Point Park. So I really wanted to get into live music, something like that. So while I was at Point Park, I got involved in quite a few things, was able to make some connections, and actually got my first job as a promotions coordinator at iHeartMedia. And then I was there for a couple months. And after that, went on to be a sponsorship coordinator at Live Nation Entertainment out at KeyBank. I think it's called Star Lake now. But yeah, so I was a promotion or a sponsorship coordinator there for about a year. I gained a lot of valuable knowledge and experience, and was able to end up transferring that into a marketing coordinator at American Eagle. So I was able to do some digital stuff, some marketing there. And then now where I'm at now is actually a firm as a recruiting coordinator. So those business focused classes at Point Park really did help me to be able to move fluidly through all the different areas that I've been since I graduated.
Excellent. Okay. How about Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Meyers. I graduated in 2016. I mainly focused in the arts, and and then I for my last semester, I did a program called Tepper because I always knew I wanted to go into casting or agency work, and Tepper was the only program of its kind that's geared towards casting, and it's through Syracuse University, so I had to go through a lot of red tape with Teresa's help, and we were able to make it happen.
Talk about a lot of red tape. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and from there, I moved to New York City for my last semester, worked with top casting directors, and got to intern during pilot season with a Fox executive and McCorkle Casting, which does theater. And then from there, I decided to switch to the agency side of things. And I started off as an assistant in young and emerging talent at a big corporate agency. It was not my cup of tea, the corporate environment, which I had no idea before I got to experience it. It just wasn't for me. And then from there, I landed at Nicolosi, where I've been for 5 years. It's a boutique agency. It's much more laid back. And actually, as of Monday, I am no longer a junior agent. I am a full-fledged agent. It happened very quickly. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay. How about Myah?
Hi, I'm Myah Olson. I graduated from Point Park in 2018, and my focus was in sports. I actually transferred in, and so when I transferred in, I was already interning. I was interning with Pitt's hockey team. It's a club team, so it's not a team or school sanctioned, but I interned there for 2 seasons, which helped me get an internship with the Penguins Foundation. And from there, that internship turned into a part-time job in the office and game night role. And I stayed there for about two seasons, and then was kind of struggling to break through into the sports field. I really wanted to be in community relations. So I left the sports industry for a little, worked at higher ed. I worked at CMU and advancement for a little bit. And just last September, I was able to come back to the sports world, and I work for the Steelers now in community relations. And it's been a really fast, getting back in, but it's been great.
Excellent. Okay. How about Gabby?
Hello, I'm Gabby. I graduated in 2020 during the start of the pandemic. I specialize in entertainment, mostly live music. So throughout college, I kind of did a lot of internships with venues, and then the pandemic hit. And since I was really into live music that was kind of put on hold. So I was living in Nashville for the past year and a half. And then 6 months ago, I got this job at Electro Music Group, and I'm the assistant for the artist development and touring department. So yeah, this is my first like full-time job within the industry.
Yay. And working with an alum
Yes.
from our program also.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could, and we can, I'll jump in. You don't have to go in the same order as you did before, but if you could talk about what activities you were involved in when you were a student at Point Park.
I'll start off. So at Point Park, I originally came to Point Park to do a major in photojournalism, and I realized that I did not enjoy that much, and I didn't even know about the SAEM program prior to coming to Point Park. I think if I did know about the program ahead of time, I would have done that right away. So I switched my major my sophomore year. I connected with Ed, and he kind of just went over the program with me and got me extremely excited about it. And from there, I started doing internships. My first internship was with Pioneer Records. I was the operations intern, which was really great. I think that's when I first realized that I wanted to work at a label. And I was an intern for a semester under Molly, who is an alumni as well. And I kind of just helped with everything within Pioneer Records and learned a lot that I previously did not know, because prior to SAEM, I didn't really know anything about the label side of the business. So from there, I worked in Pioneer Records for another year after that. And then I started doing some internships in Pittsburgh with Stage AE, Dresky, and the rock scene as well. And so, yeah, that was my main involvement with Point Park.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, and Carlos has been able to join us now. Yay! So Carlos, if you want to introduce yourself and then talk about what your career path has been since you graduated and what year you graduated.
Yeah, hi everyone. So yeah, I started out at Point Park as an SAM major, and I focus on the sport area of SAM. After I graduated, I decided to go back to school, and I got my master's in information system at Point Park also.
Oh, interesting. What year did you graduate from SAEM, Carlos?
2020.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just did my master was an accelerated program, so I finished in a year and a half. And then while at Point Park, I had a few internships. I interned with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I interned with Perfect Game USA. They're a baseball scouting organization. And I did a few events with the Pirates and the Steelers. After graduation, I had applied to a few jobs in the sport industry, and luckily one of my networks who work with the Blue Jays, he was able to recommend me to his boss, and then that's how I was able to land this position that I now have. So, yeah.
And we were just starting to talk about what activities students were or alumni were involved in while they were students. So if Carlos, since we just had you talking, if you want to continue with that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So, geez, I feel like I was really involved. With Point Park, I was in the track and cross country team. I was also part of the SAM club. I was part of the Blacks student union. I also was a resident educator, and I was also a pioneer ambassador within the university.
Oh, wow. You were involved in more than I even remembered.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, Myah?
Well, it's a hard act to follow.
I know.
So I transferred in when I was a sophomore and I was a commuter. So I really, and again, I was already interning when I transferred in. So most of my activities outside of classes were my internships and jobs. So I really wasn't involved with, SAEM club or anything like that. So.
Okay. Gabby?
I already went, but I can say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Lost track there. How about Steve?
Sure. For me, I tried to join the SAEM club like maybe 3 times, and I just never got around to it. And it is something I actually did regret. I still kind of, to this day, I'm like, I wish I would have done that. But I spent most of my time at Point Park just so focused on setting myself up for getting to New York and being able to really get in this industry as soon as possible. So I did 2 internships at the same place at Dockerby, and which is a talent agency in Pittsburgh. And also I really tried to force my way into some acting classes through COPA, because I felt like for what I wanted to do, even just being able to sit there and listen to the acting teacher in their scene study classes, just being able to listen and absorb that information was something that would be beneficial to me. And after lots of trying, I finally got through to them and I got to do that. And I also took voice lessons while I was there. But aside from that, it was all just trying to intern and do what I can to get to New York.
Excellent. Thank you. Haley?
Okay. So I was pretty involved too, same as Myah. I was a commuter and I also was a transfer. So I was coming in kind of late to the game. But for me, that like lit a fire and I was like, okay, I need to figure out like who I need to talk to, who I need to know. So the first thing I did was sign up for the SAEM club. I also was part of the Music Association Club. It was something that we actually revamped during my time there. I'm not even sure if that's still a thing, but I was the secretary for that club. And then I also went to the Polestar Music Conference, and that kind of like helped me fine tune like really what I wanted to do in the music industry. And that was definitely like live music, touring, things like that. So from there, when we returned to the conference, I went to Ed and I was like, what can I do to like just be part of the music industry? So he helped me to secure some production running positions. And that would be like a production runner, a VIP assistant with like The Who, Carrie Underwood, super fun. And then from there, I got to do internships at Stage AE and a company called Z Trip to get like a little taste of the marketing. And then after that, I was actually a street team member for Dresky Entertainment, where you hang up like flyers around the city in exchange for tickets. So got to see some shows and then also make some connections with local promoters. And then the final thing before I actually started with full-time was a street team manager for Opus One. So I got to work really closely with them and like actually manage a team of street team members to make sure that like all their territories were promoted appropriately. So definitely tried to get involved with as many people as I could just to make those connections. And then those will definitely be people, I still talk to like most of them today. So pretty important to just make sure you stay in contact. But yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Excellent. And you may have all kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you could just talk about when you were trying to get that first job after you graduated, what was that process like? How did you kind of like attack it, because I know, we've got seniors now that are getting ready to graduate. And I feel like there's a certain level of kind of almost paralyzation that happens with seniors because, you're so focused on, oh my God, I've got to like finish up this semester. I'm taking business models and but then it's like, okay, how do I go about, getting that first job after graduation? Anyone wants to jump in and go ahead?
For me,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Okay. I guess for me, I graduated the first time around was during the pandemic. and that was kind of hard because a lot of the sport world was on pause, and so that's why I decided to go back to grad school. But after grad school, I think I just revisit those connections that I had, and that just kind of worked out for me because I was applying to different things, but then they weren't really working out much. But then once I was able to revisit those connections and get in touch with them, I was able to land this job basically. So I would say just if they have any connections that they know, like, just reach out to them.
Yeah, I agree with Carlos. That's how I actually landed where I'm at now. But for my first job, it was very much just throwing things at a wall and applying to everything and hoping that somebody picked up on you. For me, there was like no rhyme or reason. And there was actually even one job I wrote a handwritten letter because that's what this person had done when he started out as a producer. That's how he got his foot in the door, was by writing a handwritten letter. And I followed in that footstep and I got the interview. But it was right after I'd gotten another job interview that I ended up taking. But yeah, use those connections. I landed at Nicolosi only because between when I was interviewing for my second job, I was trying to meet a friend and they weren't able to meet me until dinner time. And instead of going back to Brooklyn where I was living, I decided to go see my old mentors at McCorkle where I interned. And I brought them cupcakes and just said hello. And while I was there, they were like, why are you dressed up? And I explained I was looking for a new job. And then she was like, oh, Nicolosi's looking for an assistant. Can you get there within the hour? And then it just all worked out. And had I not, tried to go visit them and re-solidify those connections, none of this would have happened. So definitely keep those connections in the back of your pocket always.
Steve, tell us more about those cupcakes. That seems like that was the magical, is a chocolate cup? Like what are they? What's the secret?
I got a wide range. They were from Carlo's Bakery. They were very good. So if you're going to bring baked treats, make sure they're good.
Thank you.
Similar to Carlos, I graduated right at the start of the pandemic. So unlike him, I did not go to grad school, even though I probably should have. I should have taken the time, the gap that I had, and done it a little bit better. But I moved down to Nashville. So I moved back to Buffalo from Pittsburgh because I'm from Buffalo. And I was living down in Nashville. I was doing some runner work, but not with live music. Just like they were having some live entertainment, but just doing stuff like that, just trying to do as much as possible. I was working at a restaurant down there, and everyone that was working at the restaurant, they were all singer-songwriters or they were musicians as well. Everyone who was working the music industry and just didn't have a job, but people could still go out to eat. So everyone was working down there. So I met a lot of people at that restaurant who went to school for music business or were a musician themselves. So everyone was just trying to get by. And during last summer, Ed came down and we met up at a coffee shop and we just got catched up, which that is my number one advice. Honestly, I have my job because of Ed. So thank you so much, Ed. But just keeping in touch with everyone, no matter how you view them, every single connection is worth it. No matter how big or small you might think it is, those people know people, and no matter what, every single connection and network ability counts so much. So I met up with Ed. We talked a lot. I applied to a bunch of jobs, but it was during the time that a lot of people were applying for jobs because no one had jobs. So every single time there was a job that popped up, there was tons of applicants. And then in September, Ed reached out to me and said that there was an opportunity at Electra where I work now. So I talked to Max, who is also an alumni, and we started talking, and then I applied for the job, and I got the job, and I moved up to New York. But I will say, every single connection that you can make with somebody, even if it's not in your field, like I made connections with people who are songwriters, and I don't want to go into songwriting, but every single connection that you can make is extremely important. And trying to keep that connection as strong as possible is just extremely important. And I cannot stress that enough. This industry is all about who you know. It's definitely based on all of your experience, but your experience will get you in the door. But your connections and how you do at your job is what takes you to the next step. So it's just very important.
Teresa, if I can butt in for 1 second. I just wanted to make one mention on Gabby's story, which I think is, it's nice to see she's there. But the other thing we want to remember is it was really through a former, SAEM student that really got the job for you, because through the connections that we have, and this is important because number one, I know that you guys stay in touch, and I always tell the students, we're going to rely on you to help somebody else. And so in Gabby's case, we had a guy named Max Kowalchuk, who was one of our students some years ago, and he had already gotten to Electra and was working there. And so he called me and said, hey, I got a promotion and I'm able to hire an assistant. And before we put it out to everybody else, because Electra's going to put it out and there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of applications, which I heard there were, he said, do you know anyone you think might be good? And I didn't know particularly that Gabby would be interested, but I just thought I'd reach out to a few people, and she was one that we had just talked to, and she applied on her own. There was no guarantee. Max says, look, all I'm going to do is I'll take a look at these people before. And of course, she was outstanding. And he said, no, this is exactly what we want. But it's so critical to know that our SAM students, and just probably Point Park alums in general, I shouldn't say just SAM, they're out there too. And of course, again, you guys hopefully will be doing that for people with a little bit more experience too. So we'll be knocking on your door to help somebody else out. Always remember to tell us. All right. We want to take over the world.
Electra, we're just trying to get all of Point Park to come work.
We need an artist to get up there from Pioneer Records to be an Electra artist. That's next. We're working on that.
I'm trying.
Myah or Haley, you want to jump in?
I can, sorry.
No, go ahead, Myah. You go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So when I graduated, I was already working part-time with the Penguins Foundation. So I kind of let myself have a little breather of like 2-3 months of like, I'll just work part-time before I really get, into the resume and the cover letters and sending all those things out. So probably I think like August is when I started to really, like Steve, just anything and everything just like out there. And yeah, so like I said, it was hard, struggled a little bit, got pretty far in some interviews, flown out to some teams, and just nothing really stuck at that point. And so, I did take a detour, and, I don't really look at it as like, oh, I'm leaving the sports world. It's more of a, I left, got a really good experience there, and everything I learned there, I've been able to bring some of it to this job too. So, I know we all have a passion to get to a certain, job or industry, but, sometimes taking those opportunities that may not be on your roadmap, there's still really good detours. So,
well, and while you were at CMU, weren't you able to go for your master's there?
So I'm currently still am in it.
Oh, you still in it? Okay.
Yeah. So I started it when I was at CMU. The pandemic hit, and I was like, oh, I should do it. And then I waited a year into the pandemic to actually start. So I'm finishing up.
Oh, okay. It. Okay. I knew you had started, but I thought you had graduated already. I'm jumping ahead.
No, you're fine.
Haley?
All right. Yeah. So for me, I really wanted to get involved as soon as I could. So I wasn't closed off to taking something that wasn't full-time. So definitely be open to part-time internships just to make sure you're, getting that experience. But for me personally, I was able to go be a promotions coordinator with iHeartMedia. And that was super important because I got to work so closely with the venues, the promoters, everyone that you really need to work with. And then that's how I kind of found out about the Live Nation sponsorship coordinator position. So I was able to actually utilize those connections and references that I made during my time in school, and then also while working part-time to leverage that job. So I guess my advice would kind of just be open to anything and really lean on those connections that you made during your time in school. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I thought I hit unmute and it muted at me again. Sorry about that. Been on Zoom too much today. I just thought I'd open it up and have a chance for students to ask questions. So, because we've got this great group of folks here today. So, anyone have any questions? Don't all go at once.
I'll ask a question.
Go ahead, Paige.
As you all look back to your time at Point Park, if you were to address yourself when you were, here and in school, what do you think you would tell yourself? Would there be something different that you'd be telling yourself to do? Or would you say, keep on doing the same thing? What kind of advice would you, from hindsight, give yourself?
I think biggest thing that I wish I would have done when I was at Point Park is just ask more questions with because when I was in Point Park, I was also doing a lot of VIP work. So I just wish I would have asked more questions when I was doing those little gigs. Just because people like when you ask questions, and it's also the next step being like, oh, like if you're asking so many questions, you could ask that person for their email. So it's like one step further to networking with somebody. And I'm still point now, I wish I still ask more questions when I'm around certain people, but just asking questions will open the floor to a lot more opportunities. So no matter what situation you are in, even one or two questions is great.
I'll agree with Gabby. I think asking questions really goes a long way, especially when you're unsure on what to do. Like the way I was able to land my Penguins internship was, I was just curious. I wasn't really never into hockey, but Tom worked there, and I just asked him like, hey, do you think this is something that I should try out, look into? And he was like, yeah, sure. I think that would be a great way for you to find out if this is something for you or not. As a matter of fact, he told me just send him my resume and he would just pass it out to some people in the office. And then next thing I knew, I had like a few interviews and I was able to land my internship. So yeah, I think asking more questions and being able to just connect and go to those events that Bob is really good at putting on. So I think, yeah, just asking questions and keeping those connections for sure.
I think for me, I definitely was involved in external events and in clubs too, but I think I would have wished I would have gotten more involved with the university itself. Being a commuter, that can be tough, but I wish I would have put a little bit more pressure on me to get more involved.
For me, it would have been, I wish I would have done a minor just in something different, and just another skill set to bring to the table. I think the best part of SAEM is that you get so many different tools across so many different types of entertainment. And I just wish I would have taken that one step further with just another minor.
Yeah, and I'm the mirror, Steve. That was my thought too. Is I wish I would have taken the opportunity to just add another tool to my arsenal kit, like social media. I know I took that one class on it, but it would have been I really wish I would have delved more into some other skill set.
And one of the questions that was posted in the discussion board is, do you recommend getting involved? Let me pull up the question here. For each of you, do you recommend staying in Pittsburgh and using existing connections, or moving to a larger city and making new connections? That's one question.
For me, I didn't really, I love Pittsburgh, so I'm glad I'm able to stay. But I think for me, like when you work, in a major league sports team, there seems to be, so many teams and all that stuff, but it's really quite small. And, I have counterparts that I know that work, I have a friend that works down in the Cowboys stadium and things like that. So I think like, you probably have a connection at a different sports team. You just probably, or, arts, or sorry, I'm doing sports because that's where I'm at. But I think, if you really want to stay in Pittsburgh, I think it's great. You have a connection base there, but, you probably have a connection somewhere else. You just may not know yet. So that's part of, like everyone's saying, is to make sure you keep up with your networks. You never know who's out there and where they are.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is it depends on what you want to do. If there's a certain job you want to do and you can do it at its fullest capacity in Pittsburgh, pursue those options. If another city is in the back of your mind while you're still in college, try to get to that city in the summers if you're able to. See if you can get an internship, or even just like a couple weeks shadowing in the summer. That way you can get a head start on those connections. Because if I could be an agent in Pittsburgh and work on the projects that I wanted to work on, I would have never left. I was Pittsburgh born and raised, and I wish I could do what I do in Pittsburgh. But for me, I had no choice but to go to another city. And I did have connections from Point Park for New York, but I wanted to expand upon that. And that's why I ended up doing that Tepper program. So I was set up for success and had some built-in connections right off the bat.
I can agree with Steve. I think in Pittsburgh, we're pretty lucky with like our sports, arts and entertainment, but I was considering New York for sure when I was looking for jobs. And I was just lucky enough to secure one here in Pittsburgh, but I definitely recommend branching out because you're doing yourself a favor and also expanding your network too in another state. So definitely agree with you.
I moved to Nashville my first semester of my senior year because I knew that I did not want to stay in Pittsburgh, because I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I do really love it. It's one of my favorite cities. But I did move to Nashville just for a semester. I did classes online because I wanted to test the waters, because I've never been to Nashville, but I didn't want to go to LA and I didn't want to go to New York at that moment. After I moved back to Pittsburgh after graduating, I did move home and I moved back down to Nashville because I loved it so much. I do live in New York now, but I didn't want to leave Nashville. I did really love it there, but I did know getting this opportunity was amazing. And there's so much time left in your life. You can move back to places. You're going to meet so many people that will open so many connections. So even if you have to move just for a little bit, it's not the end of the world. And if you want to stay in Pittsburgh, like, do it. There's so many people, you're not going to stay at one job for the rest of your life, the rest of your career. So try to branch out as much as possible or stay in Pittsburgh. It's not, no matter what, you're going to meet so many people and it's going to be a great opportunity no matter what.
Yeah, I think like Steve said, it just depends on what you want to do and where you want to like go. If you do want to stay in Pittsburgh, like that's options that you can look into. But if you're more concerned into getting in an industry, then I would recommend just reach out to any network and be open to move or relocate wherever the industry takes you.
One of the other questions, it seems like that certain people focus on internal events or activities, and other people have focused on external activities when they're in school. Do you have, anybody have a sense of which current students should focus on, or any recommendations? I think part of it may have to do with whether you're a commuter student, is kind of my sense. If you're a commuter, it may be, your tendency may be to focus on external events because you're not on campus. So any thoughts on that?
I think doing a good combination of both is great. I wish I would have done more on campus when I went to Point Park. I did most of my activities through external internships and stuff off campus, but just doing a mixture of both would be the best option, because there's so many opportunities at Point Park that everyone should take, and also expanding to meet new people from like other schools who might be going into sports, into arts and entertainment is also a great way to meet people, because they might have more opportunities for doing more stuff. So I just think doing a good combination of both of them would be the best route to take.
Yeah, I agree with Gabby, and especially at Point Park, it's just such a creative group of people, and a lot of go-getters. A lot of people are trying to start their own theater companies. I think somebody from my class started their own clothing line while they were in college, and
Brandon Moon.
Yeah.
And he's back in Pittsburgh now and has a brick and mortar store, and he just has been getting a lot of publicity for it. So yeah.
Yeah, and like one of my friends who was a theater major, he started his own 501c3 not-for-profit theater company. And when I heard about it, I went up to him and was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get into casting. Can I cast your productions?" And he said, "Absolutely." So I worked with him for a year casting his projects, and now he's like a legit famous TV star. So, but I wish I did more on campus to reach out to more people and expand that network. So I think you should definitely do both.
I agree with that too. And I agree with what you said, Teresa, that it depends if you're a commuter or a resident, but definitely a combination of both.
Yeah, I think being a commuter, I think it definitely impacts your involvement in campus, because it's so much harder if you're commuting to get involved in day-to-day activities on campus, I believe. So, and then the next question is, what was that transition like, going from being a student to having to go to it? Well, if you did, go to an office every day, more of the traditional 9 to 5, or is it 9 to 5, and what is that transition been like for you, from going from being a college student to working in the workforce?
For me, it was a pretty seamless transition because both of my internships that I did while I was at Point Park were full-time. Well, the first one was part-time because it was during my spring semester, but then I did a second one with them in the summer, and it was every day of the week. So I guess for me, it was just in my bones. And I'm a creature of habit anyway, so having a set schedule was very easy for me to adapt to. The hard part is learning how to leave work at the office. That to me was the biggest adjustment, where you left school, you did your homework, and you could go to Oakland and party or do whatever. But now sometimes your work carries with you a little bit, and that was something that I had to let go of.
Yeah, very similar to Steve. I feel like I was always busy during school, whether it was like an internship or just doing something. And so whenever I got this opportunity, this job, it's felt it hasn't felt too heavy. It's just been really easy to transition from being in school to working full time right now. And yeah, it's I think because it's such a newer thing, like whenever you get into a new job, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's like you're doing like something too much. It feels like you should be doing more, if anything.
I think for me, because I did so many external opportunities and internships, and those hours were definitely not traditional, that it prepared me for like the first two jobs that I had, being a promotions coordinator and then a sponsorship coordinator, just because you have to be there from load in to load out. It's late nights. I think the hardest adjustment for me was when I did leave those fields, going into a 9 to 5. That was similar to what Carlos was saying. You feel like this is it. So yeah, I feel like for me, it was kind of the opposite.
I mean, I agree with Haley. I also did a lot of activities outside of class, and so it was kind of easy. I will say it was hard when I left working hockey to do 9 to 5 and then jump back into sports. Oh, sorry, some people loading out right here, and then jumping right back into football. And I jumped in during the season, so we were kind of already busy with games and activities. So.
For me, I would say, since I was working a lot of live events, which typically happen at nighttime, I got used to working like later hours, and now having to work at 10 to 6 has been an adjustment, just because I'm used to working longer hours, but I wasn't used to working it during the day. But I think if I had a shorter gap in between graduating to starting this job, it would have been a lot easier, but I just got used to my schedule of working different jobs. So working the 10 to 6 has been slightly an adjustment, but I think the classes at Point Park do prepare you well enough to transition, honestly.
You want to maybe talk about any classes that you wish that you had taken, or classes that you really enjoyed taking and that you recommend students take while they're at Point Park?
I'm pretty sure it's a mandatory class still, but I think career prep was very helpful, just to polish up your resume, learn, how like the best practices, because they do kind of change every couple of years, all of that stuff. Again, I think you have to take it, but
Yeah.
definitely take it and actually absorb what's being said there.
Yeah, and it is rapidly changing, because like one of the things that I'm hearing now is, for many years it was just pounded into you that you should have a 1-page resume, but that's basically been thrown out the window now. Now it's like, if you've got the experience, you want to show it. You don't want to limit your resume to 1 page. We just had students that were applying for grad school, and we had been telling them, oh, you should only have a 1-page resume. And the grad school programs were saying, no. If you've got a 2-page resume, send us a 2-page resume. So that is something that's been a recent shift.
I'll agree with that too. I think that class helped a lot in that sense of just building your resume and prepping you for interviews and things like that. Another class that I think helped me, I'm not quite sure exactly what the name was, but I think it was sports management with Bob. That class really helped me because we would go over on how to set up different networks meetings with your outside network. So something that Bob would always emphasize is setting up like a coffee date, or a little 5-minute meeting with someone that is coming to town, or someone that you want to talk to, and he will really go into the details on how to do that and what you need to do in order to make sure that you're approachable and that that is being set up properly. I think that helped me with this opportunity, because I was always just like, okay, like, how does that sound? Like, that's something he was always emphasized, like, ask them, how does that sound? Or like, do you want to grab coffee, or things like that? And that's kind of what, like, has always been engraved in my mind, and has helped me a lot.
Well, it's interesting, Carlos, because all of you have graduated recently, but since you've graduated, things have changed so much. And in the last 2 years, you couldn't go get a cup of coffee with anybody. So what we're teaching now, and there are several of the students in personal branding right now, that we're talking about informational interviews done by video, where you're doing the same thing, Carlos. You're asking for 15 minutes, but now it's by video. I'm dying because nobody buys me a cup of coffee anymore, but we're going to get back to those days. And you're right, it's all about that. And I know you did that so well.
Actually, I had an alum buy me coffee yesterday, so it's coming back. Got an alum that is getting ready to start his own business, and he remembered good old business models and doing the business plan. And so he had me, look at his business model canvas in the draft of his plan. And so that was really rewarding to know that students are actually using that class and starting businesses. So very cool. Well, I don't want to take too much more time out of anyone's day, but I just, any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our students would be fabulous.
Can I ask one question? Let me see here.
Sure, go ahead.
Hey, I'm going to ask a question. I might have missed this, and I'm sorry if I did, but I know where everybody works, but I don't know exactly. Can you maybe like 15 words or less exactly what you do at your business? Like maybe starting with Steve. I'm just interested in knowing exactly what you're doing up there at this agency.
Yeah, so I'm a talent agent. We represent actors in TV, film, theater. We have clients on Broadway. We have a series regular on Chicago Fire. And my job is basically marketing our clients and pushing them to casting directors and trying to secure them employment.
Yeah, no, that's great. I figured that's what you probably were doing, but I was just double checking because that's really interesting to me. Even though we talk about entertainment agents, I mean, I love, that's right down the same line there. So I wanted to catch that. And Haley, same thing with you.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a recruiting coordinator at a firm. So similar to how Steve is a talent agent, I'm essentially like the agent for the candidates that are coming through our pipelines. So I'm actually scheduling for them, screening them, and then actually doing the hiring paperwork. So a little different outside of music, but the skills still translate, which is cool.
Yeah. No, exactly. Okay. Gabby, same thing with,
Yeah, so I'm the assistant for the artist development and touring department at Electra, and my job is to assist the entire department. But we just kind of make sure that all of our artists who are going out on the road have everything that they need to effectively make the tour go as well as possible and kind of grab new fans and just market everything as well. It's a lot. I've only been here for 6 months, but there's a lot of different aspects to the job, which I would, if anyone wants to call me or email me and talk about it, I would love to. So just let me know. Yeah.
And you're working under Max's direction, right? Because he would be your
supervisor. So Annie is the head of our department. So I'm technically directly her assistant. But I help out with Max and then Aaron, who's in charge of ticketing. Gotcha. Since we solicit tours to different brands like Amazon, Spotify, radio stations, and then we just kind of deal with the guest list. Right. So I've been helping a lot more with that, sending guest list requests to all TMs and management every day.
Put us on the guest list next time we see a band.
Oh yeah, everyone's invited.
Your name. We don't even know if it's your band. We're just going to say, hey, Gabby said we could get in. So we just
it'll work.
That's great. Myah?
So I'm community relations assistant at the Steelers. And I help coordinate any sort of community game day activations, and then also work with the players and community partners to do a lot of the activities and player appearances throughout the season mostly, and then a couple right now during the off season with anybody that is hanging around.
Yeah, right. Okay, great. Well, that's good. Get them working over there, okay? We need to have a good season. Tell that quarterback to start throwing the ball around a little bit more. Carlos?
Yes, I'm a technology assistant for Toronto Blue Jays in their player development department. So basically, we just use a lot of advanced equipment where we're able to gather data on the players and basically determine what plan or what goals we can set for them in order to help them develop to the next level, so they can get better and play at the major league level.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, man. That's all good. I thought, it was good, but that's even better to hear you say it. Congratulations on making it work. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'd like to ask just real quickly if anybody does have a big idea for our celebration next year. Anybody have any thoughts? Just think about it. Email us. Let us know. We want to blow this out next year. 20 years is a long time.
I'm starting to think maybe it's at Heinz Field. I'm starting to really get the vibe. We could be on that field out there. Up at one of those big clubs. Get Meg McCabe involved.
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
Use my name. Oh, man, that'll be fun. Yeah, we'll have a good time. We got to really think about that, huh?
Yeah, we do.
Most definitely.
I vote Steve just brings cupcakes. We'll be all good.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
I'm on the hook for the cupcakes, Steve.
I got you.
Oh, well, this has been absolutely fabulous. I thank you so, so much for participating in this. And it's, always great to connect our current students with our alumni. And it's always wonderful to stay connected to our alumni. I've missed not being able to go to New York for the last couple of years because of COVID. So usually when I go to New York, I go see Steve and connect. And now, now Gabby's there. So now I've got more alums to get together with in the city. So thank you all for your time, and yeah.